So by now, I'm sure you're all familiar with this. Nike's new ad campaign featuring Colin Kaepernick, who was essentially blacklisted from the NFL for protesting against police brutality and for criminal justice reform. So the ad right here says, believe in something even if it means sacrificing everything. Now, a lot of the focus around this has been, well, will this negatively or positively impact Nike? I don't care. I really don't think most people should care. Unless you work for Nike, unless you are an executive at Nike, why should you care if this is going to positively or negatively impact the company? Now, if you want to talk about, well, this how this impacts culture, well, that's a different discussion. So I do think that how this ad campaign performs in terms of Nike's ability to either gain or lose sales because of it is an indication of how culturally this is accepted. So if this is accepted by the culture, and we see that in the reflected in the sales of Nike, then that tells us that we are living in a more healthier culture, or at least a culture that is more aware and willing to accept protests against police brutality and the need for criminal justice reform. But if Nike sales were hit because of this, then that tells us that the culture is dumb, that most people aren't aware of these issues or don't care about these issues. So what do the sales tell us? This: Nike's online sales jumped 31% after company unveiled Kaepernick campaign, data shows. And on top of that, media exposure for Nike is now worth more than $163 million, according to Apex Marketing. And this is how that's broken down in terms of neutral, positive, and negative exposure. So neutral response to this is 48.84% or 48.4 million. Positive is 65.58 million, and negative is 49.08 million. So the majority of people either had a neutral or positive response to this ad campaign. Now, this is an indication that culturally, this is largely being accepted, which is a good thing. It tells us that most people are not bothered by Kaepernick's protest 2 years ago of police brutality and for criminal justice reform. Now, some of the negative reaction around this campaign is funny and disturbing. Let me just give you one example. Prominent conservative commentator Ben Shapiro, who tweeted this out, and I'm going to try to read this in my Ben Shapiro voice to really give the impact that's needed here. Name the thing he sacrificed. He was benched before he protested. He's become far more celebrated and famous than his performance would justify. Now he's got a lucrative ad contract. Ali sacrificed something. Kaepernick didn't. Okay. The Ben Shapiro, just one example of this ridiculous argument and this whole discussion that I'm going to get to in a second. It's not really about what Kaepernick sacrificed or didn't sacrifice. But first up, let's just be real here. Yes, Kaepernick sacrificed a QB position. Yes, the NFL owners have blacklisted him because of his continued desire to protest on the NFL field. That is why he does not have a current position right now in the NFL. There's tons of reporting on this with real sources, actual connections to owners where owners said, yes, we did not hire this person because they said that they would protest on the field. That is a fact. So one example here from The Guardian. At least the NFL isn't pretending it's not blackballing Colin Kaepernick. Kaepernick and comrade in arms Eric Reid have again been denied employment due to their anthem protest. Further proof that for the NFL owners, it's simply a matter of power. Now again, I'm going to have a link to that article below the video so you can actually go and read into why Colin Kaepernick and others have been kicked out of the NFL or not allowed a job in the NFL. And you're going to see it's pretty clear why. Now, ultimately though, Ben Shapiro and other conservative voices that are so focused, so angry about this ad campaign, look what they're focused on. They're focused on the wording of the campaign. Oh, but what did Colin Kaepernick sacrifice? The campaign says, believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything. But Colin Kaepernick, in their opinion, or in my opinion, if I'm playing a conservative commentator, I don't think Colin Kaepernick sacrificed anything. What other ad campaign are conservatives angry about? What other ad campaign do they take literally and get this angry about? What was Ben Shapiro out there during McDonald's I'm Loving It talking about how, oh, Justin Timberlake, I'm sure he doesn't like everything on the McDonald's menu. Does he actually eat the fish fillet? I don't think so. Nope, this is a bullshit ad campaign. There's no way he's loving everything on the menu. Can you imagine? This has nothing to do with the ad campaign. It has everything to do with the fact that Colin Kaepernick and others like him are protesting police brutality and are pushing for criminal justice reform. It's complete bullshit. They have absolutely nothing to actually stand on. Their entire argument is about Colin Kaepernick, who hasn't protested on the field since, 2016? I mean, the whole thing is ridiculous. To still pretend to be angry about that when you know it's because you're a fucking racist is unbelievable. So this one tweet that blew up really sums it up for me. This is from Alfredo Jones. Colin Kaepernick hasn't kneeled at an NFL game in 2 years. He's just fighting racial injustice now. So what are y'all really mad about? Exactly. This has absolutely nothing to do with Colin Kaepernick and him not sacrificing anything or Colin Kaepernick and his protest 2 years ago. This has everything to do with a black man that is working to fight racial injustice in America. That's all this is about. Conservative commentators don't like it because it shows them that they are losing the culture war. They are losing people because their entire message is based around white identity. That's it. Now, they want to claim, oh, but the left. No, the left is all about identity politics, all about that. Do you watch my videos? I talk about issues. I talk about healthcare. I talk about income inequality. I talk about politics. I talk about things that actually affect real people's lives. All these assholes do is posture. All they do is have these phony arguments around any little issue that may make their white followers feel shitty about themselves. Because people can't for 1 second look outside themselves and realize that at the end of the day, we're all just humans. We should all just want to coexist on this earth together and try to help each other and benefit each other. So when I push for something like Medicare for all in the US, a universal healthcare system where in Canada I already have, but when I try to talk about that, I also want an asshole like Ben Shapiro and people that follow him to also have healthcare, because healthcare to me is a human right. We should all have healthcare regardless of what we disagree on. But Ben Shapiro and people like him, they'll focus on these cultural issues because that's what makes them money. That's what riles the base. That's what gets people distracted from actual issues like income inequality or housing or healthcare. Ben Shapiro takes millions of dollars from billionaires and distracts people with bullshit issues like getting angry about a Nike ad campaign. Come on. There's actual shit happening in the world, and that's what you're concerned about. So, again, ultimately, it doesn't matter what Ben Shapiro says, because guess what? We're winning. Now, I also don't want to say that, Nike's perfect, because they're not. Nike, like all these multinational corporations, have an issue, have unethical business practices. I mean, this is the norm, unfortunately, in a capitalist system. So this is an article from last year, but it's still applicable today. Nike is facing a new wave of anti-sweatshop protests. This will be an issue, continue to be an issue in a capitalist system. But you also have to be able to separate that from the cultural impact of something like an ad campaign featuring Colin Kaepernick that does well. Because it tells us that while there may be loud, annoying people like Ben Shapiro out there and other commentators that are trying to get all angry about this, ultimately, most people support what Colin Kaepernick is doing. They support this ad campaign. They understand that there is police brutality that disproportionately affects Black Americans. They understand there's a criminal justice system that disproportionately affects Black people. They get that. So if there's one thing I want you to take away from this entire discussion, it's that you're going to be all right. Things are getting better. Most people are on the side of good, are on the side of being aware of these issues and wanting to change things. So don't let any negative impact or any negative commentary around this Kaepernick ad campaign get you down. Because you know what? Again, we are winning this fight. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, hit that subscribe button below and consider becoming a patron at therationalnational.com/join. You get some extra content, but also, most importantly, you help support me in continuing to produce these sorts of videos.